Hello, guys. What is happening? And welcome to this live stream. Now, when I saw this, somebody sent this me, and I nearly fell off my chair because I thought, no way is this true. And the fact is, it is true. It's a lot more real than I thought. I mean, it was only the other night that we were talking about social credit scores, and literally, digital ID plays into that perfectly. It's the first step, and we already kind of had that with the passport systems that were put in place. And let me remind you that these passport systems were across the entire country. So even though we're specifically talking about Ontario in this stream, I mean, what happens there is going to follow to the rest of the country. And I think the narrative that they're going to use is Russia because it's for your safety. We need to keep you safe. We need to be able to identify you in case there's these crazy Russian spies amongst us, because it has become acceptable now in the mainstream media, at least, to be totally racist towards people from Russia because you're just putting them all in one cage, exactly like they did with people who hadn't had the Potion Master's cure. So, anyway, guys, nice to see you, Trent. Nice to see you, Gloria. So, here we go. I'm just going to fall off your chair, I'm telling you. Digital ID in Canada, is it safe? And we're going to go to the government's website, which I haven't even been on before this. So after we've gone through here, we're going to go onto the government's website. When I actually got the PNG file for the artwork for this video, it was off Ontario's website. And I just could not believe it. When I searched digital ID in the images, it basically, one of the first things that came up was a PNG file that was from the Ontario government, if you can believe it. Anyway, let's dig into this. The digitization of our identities has been teased for years. Teased kind of implies that it's a good thing, but anyway. And it's starting to become a reality for some Canadians. Allowing entity access to our most personal identifying information requires a lot of trust. And let me tell guys, do you have a lot of trust in your governments right now? I said this is the least amount of trust I've ever had in government. And yeah, Trent, catch up on that Scott Walters video because it's really, really good. But anyway, this I didn't actually think I'd be coming on and doing another live stream here, but I checked my emails and I was like, I've been sent this, and I nearly fell off my chair. Anyways, what does this mean for the Canadian ID holders in Ontario? They're talking about specifically Ontario. And remember what we talked about: social credit scores and CCTV, AI. That's exactly what this photo looks at. So, what is digital ID? A digital ID is the equivalent of a personal identification or authorization card that's stored on a device like a phone or tablet rather than as a physical document, because it's so cumbersome having to have a physical document. Now, it's become immediate just reading the start of this article and just knowing the mainstream narrative that they're going to push this as some sort of convenience for us. Oh, it's extra convenience for you because you can't carry around that card that weighs less than a microgram. It doesn't weigh less than a microgram. That was a joke. So, but the funny thing is, that's what they're going to push, I guarantee you. So we'll see anyway. A lot of daily activities require authorization or approval for items with an ID of some kind. When that identification data is stored digitally, it can be applied with ease and convenience. There we go, pushing that narrative of ease and convenience. But I really believe where this will play in is we need to protect you from these Russians or these spies or whatever it is, just for the safety of democracy with the war that's going on. You know, there's no shortage of grandstanding right now coming from these politicians. They are coming out and they're saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to take in these people from the Ukraine, and we're fantastic. We're Canada." That's what Freeland says. That was a really bad impression, but but that's what they're doing, and it's just grandstanding because a lot of people view Canada on the global stage, and they think, "Oh, Canada is always sticking up for the rights of its people." But is it? Is it really? Because a couple of weeks ago, 2, 3 weeks ago, they invoked the Emergency Act and were arresting peaceful protesters. And if they take away our right to protest against, and bear in mind, this was just because it was against a narrative that the government wanted to push. So if we were protesting against this, they're anti-democracy. These people, they're on Russia's side. Do you see how they'd spin a narrative around this? It's just insane. So this is exactly what they tried to do, and this is just the beginning. So that was actually pretty good. Thanks, guys. I don't think it was. When will the digital ID be released in Ontario, and is it mandatory? Ontario, Canada's most populous province, has recently been attempting to introduce a form of digital ID for its citizens. The local government has a goal of making Ontario one of the world's most digitally advanced jurisdictions, and one of the first steps to making that goal a reality is instating digital identifications. How about they electrify the trains? You know, the GO train. That would really be leading technology. I mean, just moving away from diesel trains to electric trains, and this is just, I'm playing in their ball game essentially by saying stuff like that. But this is how stupid what they're saying is, that we're going to become one of the most digitally advanced jurisdictions. And this is where these electric car thing just goes, so stupid, is because they're on one hand saying, everybody buy an electric car, you better buy an electric car. But the trains, which we control, no, we're not going to bother with those. It's too expensive to electrify the whole rail system. That's exactly the hypocrisy we see time and time again. It's like Trudeau and Freeland coming out on stage and saying, it's terrible what's happening to the Ukraine, which it is. I definitely agree with them on that. And everybody agrees with them on that, I think. So then, because of that, people kind of side with them a little bit, and they're like, oh, maybe those freedom truckers, maybe they really were trying to overthrow the government. These guys really have our best interests at heart, because we know what's going on over there is really bad, even though the consequences and series of events that led up to that point don't matter. And this has been a theme throughout the entire plan, whatever, emic. But the thing is, I have to be careful what I'm saying, obviously. But this has been a theme because obviously there's been it was a conspiracy theory, but now it's come out and it's not actually a conspiracy theory about the Wuhan lab. So all the information of that is online, and don't take this isn't medical advice or anything like that. Just want to throw that out there. But it's the same with that. They don't want to investigate the series of events that led up to the cerveza sickness. They just want to deal with that right now because they can use that narrative to manipulate, not you guys, because I know you guys are smart, but manipulate other people very, very easily. And it's sad that we live in a world where people are so easily manipulated. And you can see that right now because every mainstream media outlet is peddling the Russia Ukraine war, the graphic photos that are coming out in those articles. They are designed to get people emotionally riled up. And really, they should be asking the question, all these sanctions that you've just done are going to cause us more pain than it will cause them. So it's absolutely incredible. They seem like they're clear, dead set on destroying the financial system at this point. Um, but anyway, so originally set for release in 2021, the deadline has been since delayed until 2022. Using the digital ID will be completely voluntary. Of course, it will to begin with until something happens. There's some sort of crisis that they can then use to get it in there and say, hey, you have to use this now because these times are that we live in, whatever. It's like the Cold War, essentially. That may be the narrative they push. I have no idea. It may be some other black swan event. So let's have a look at how the digital ID works. A digital ID is an electronic identifier that can be used in place of a physical card or document and can be stored on a mobile device. Yeah, we know about these, don't we? Because yeah, they'll use the climate crisis exactly. But yeah, I mean, we know all about this because we saw it with the Cerveza passports that came out, and this is like just going to be a similar thing, I would imagine. QR code, whatever. Ontario officials have stressed that the digital ID isn't a tracking tool and will never use data without the user's permission, while also stating that none of the data will be stored in a government database. The digital ID could also store other forms of identification. Oh, look, Cerveza passes, business certificates, health cards, to name a few. So it's like one thing solves every problem. That's what they're trying to go for here. It's like one thing is going to solve all your problems because, hey, guys, it's going to be really convenient for you because you're not going to have to carry around 5 cards. I mean, how often do you use your business certificate when you go to the grocery store? I mean, you want to have that filed in a safe place, but do you really need that on your phone? But the thing is, this plays into centralizing this with AI. And when we talked about the social credit scores, and if you haven't seen that, go watch that video um, after this. Go watch that stream because we talked about the social credit scores, and they will use private companies because then they can say, oh yeah, the data isn't stored with us, it's stored in AWS or it's stored in Google Cloud. So we don't have your information. We just have all the access to your information. It's just, oh God. And just think about if the government wants to blacklist you, how easy it's going to be if it's all in this one identity that is centrally managed and controlled by the government. Just think about that. It is just insane to even think about that. But this is literally where we're heading. And do not think that you can move to another province and escape this, because as we saw with the Cerveza passports, what happens in one province will soon follow to all the others. And why is that? And that's because the government, the federal government, has intense control under the hood that you can't see of all the provinces. It's become blatantly obvious because they all implemented the Cerveza passports within a month. Every single province and territory in the country. Some of them maybe had, one or two cases, like just absolutely insane. So, but everybody had to do it because then that's fair. It's got to be fair at the end of the day. Ontario, I think they're coming up for an election as well, so that's going to be really interesting. Um, but it's progressive conservatives again. I mean, the party system, the government. The thing is, we don't solve this problem by just electing somebody else. We solve this problem by coming together as one, by waking people up, by you guys sharing videos like this, articles like this, which, by the way, are in the description, with people to wake them up to the new reality that we're beginning to see, which is that the government does not have our best interests at heart. It's all about grandstanding. It's all about their own careers. It's all about them trying to get re-elected. And it's all about them trying to control us, because that's the real fact of the matter, isn't it, guys? So let's carry on here and see. Um, Having a digital ID in a digitally developed environment is convenient for anyone living to a modern standard. Contactless transactions are quickly becoming the norm for a lot of retailers, and many items require identification to prove the purchase. Using the same device to provide contactless payment alongside identification is certainly a useful contributing factor to obtaining a digital ID. Now, before we go on here, I just want to put something in your mind, a little thought, if you could think, is if you ever get somebody object to you talking about like digital ID or social credit scores, you all you have to do is ask them and say, okay, what do you think it was like when they implemented credit scores? Do you think there was some objection to that? Do you think that that was really a good thing? Because really, you are like penalizing people for things that happen without their control. Like, let's say you lose your job, you default on your mortgage, your credit score goes down essentially, and then guess what? It then becomes like that vicious circle, because your credit score's gone down, you need money, you can't obtain it, you end up taking on more debt at higher interest rates, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. Now, obviously, the banks should be vetting people properly and assessing risk. But the problem is, it's easy to assign a number and discriminate on you than just say, hey, the industry you work in, that is quite dodgy. So we're going to assign you a higher credit, because they have all the data, guys. They know the people who are most likely to default. They don't need credit scores. You have to realize that. You don't need the credit score system. Really, the credit score system penalizes people at the bottom, which is exactly what this will do. But this will be completely different to a credit score. This will be massively have massive implications on people's lives, because you imagine you go against the government because you don't like something, you just want to protest, exactly like those people did in Russia protesting against the war in Ukraine, and they were arrested by Russia. Well, they don't need to arrest you. They don't need to invoke the Emergency Act either, because they can just literally use the digital ID system to restrict everything that you do. And we'll go on to more of that now. Thanks for all of you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Trent, for saying hit the like button. Yeah, please hit the like button, because more people will jump on the stream. The way YouTube's algorithm works is essentially you hit that like button, it will send signals to more people who subscribe to the channel, sending them a notification on their phone saying, hey, look at this, wake up right now. And that's the way it works. So please do it. So, Gloria, yeah, interesting point about controlling the weather, because we should do an entirely separate video on that, because that's a reality, and that was a conspiracy theory at one point. You know, they were on about controlling weather, and people were saying your tinfoil hat, that's a conspiracy theory. And you know what it is? Yesterday's conspiracy theory is today's reality. That's the way it seems to work right now, isn't it? And they're doing that in China. Like, you can look it up. The weather modification, it's real. They're doing it. It's a known thing. They even do it to a certain extent here in Calgary. They have planes that fly around, modify the weather when there's big intense thunderstorms to make the hail smaller size. And they literally do that. They spray some stuff up in the clouds. I forget what it is. But that literally happens, guys. And it's the insurance companies that pay them to do that, because they don't want to pay out for all the damages from the hail. So it's interesting, isn't it? There's always a corporate interest, it seems. Sorry, I didn't enlarge my thing there. So no longer will you have to root around in old documents hunting for a specific piece of information. Oh God, that is such a chore, isn't it, guys? Isn't that such a chore just to root around? I mean, maybe for 10 seconds just to get your ID. And some people are going to be blind to this. They're going to say, yeah, you know what, Luke, that is a real chore for me. And I'm sorry, but you guys are like literally becoming the part of society that is breaking away. And it really feels like the fabric of society as we know it is just being ripped and torn apart right now. We have people so highly emotional. We have so much fear out there. Like fear is being sold like no tomorrow, fear of inflation, fear of war, whatever it is. But the real fear that we should be having right now is right here, and it's the government waging war on freedom, which is happening right here in Canada. So the local government claims that digital ID claims. I like how they put that. I'm just going to highlight that real quick. I like how they put claims that the digital ID is a much safer and more convenient way to store personal information than physical documentation. I mean, guys, let me ask you this. What is more um, like what do you find is more valuable to you? I don't know about you, but having rounds of silver and gold are more valuable to me than the government paper that we have. So really, I mean, your credit card compared to a piece of gold, it's a little bit different, but I find that comparison very similar to this. It's like, this physical documentation is our basically our personal freedom. And if we give this away, and I just think that this will get given away because the woke culture that we live in right now is becoming so entrenched into society. People are so woke, they don't have the time, they don't want to understand the nuance. They just want to be told blanket statements and hope that everything's okay when in the background everything is falling apart. They're losing their freedom. And then one day they have to protest for something, and boom, they are restricted. Their bank account's frozen and everything like that. They can't get a mortgage. They can't pay their mortgage. They lose their home. Do you see how easy it would be to take things away? Okay, so what are the risks of digital ID? Well, I'm glad we got here. And it'll be interesting to see how this compares to the Ontario website. So, the main concerns for the Ontario digital ID are centered around having so much identifying data centralized at one point. The full list of what the Ontario digital ID is capable of helps shed light on why some Ontarians are wary of the ID. Here are some of the things that the ID could eventually facilitate. So, this could basically be a list now. They've created a list of everything that they can restrict access for you using your digital ID. And it could be very backhanded in a way that it's sort of just like they have to scan your thing and they just say, oh, it's not working. It's declined. It doesn't give you a reason or whatever. Who knows how they would blacklist people? But as they already did blacklist people with the trucker convoy, we know how big the government is waging war on freedom and democracy whilst peddling that they are the 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 champions of democracy and grandstanding and exploiting Ukrainians, which just makes me sick, to be honest, that our government is exploiting people who are essentially refugees from what's going on in Ukraine to grandstand on the world stage. And the unfortunate reality is, as we know, guys, they don't live in the real world. Trudeau is not watching this. Freeland is not watching this. They do not live in the real world. A lot of the things they say, you have to understand they actually believe. And that's not because they are really stupid. I don't think they really are. I just think that's because they actually believe that. They deep down actually believe that. Now, they have fundamentally flawed views, but their belief, I think, is genuine sometimes, which is a scary thought, but it shows you how out of touch government is with normal people like me and like you. And the thing is, if you've ever been to a country like Costa Rica, the chances of something like this happening, digital ID, are so low, so low. And that is exactly why I am saying to people, do what you can now. Start preparing to leave Canada. Start preparing to leave the West. You know, whatever you want to do, there are a million different ways that you can make money on the internet. Million different ways. So you can do it. And I really hope people do heed this warning. There's a million remote jobs as well that people can do and fill, and if you can't, then you can learn the skill and do it, so you can become a remote worker or contractor, and then you can live in some of these places, because digital IDs aren't going to fly in these places. They're just not going to fly like they are in the West and like they will in Europe and North America, in particularly Canada. I don't think digital IDs will ever happen in the US. Just putting it out there. I think that they would protest so hard against that. And I don't think Biden's going to get reelected either. So I think the danger of it happening in the US is less. I think Canada is kind of a given. May happen in Mexico, yes, but then again, like it really depends. Like, what are the Mexicans' government's interests in you if you are essentially making them money? They want to keep you there. They want to keep the tourism vibe going, everything like that. So you just have to drill into the nuance a little bit. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. So we can basically see here a list of things that you wouldn't be able to do if your digital ID got restricted. This is the very start of social credit scores. Once they have this out there, it's easy to link to AI. It's easy to link to a CCTV program and everything like that, and then just centralize everything. And you have a score. The next thing will be, hey guys, we need a score. It's just like your credit score, and you love your credit score, don't you? And it's like I said about the credit score. Don't think that they will use that comparison at some point, because it's a scoring based system. But it's like I said, the credit score is not actually needed. And it really discriminates against people at the bottom the most. It doesn't do anything, guys, as we've seen, because if you look at what happened in 2008 in America, 2017 studies were put out which actually drilled into the nuance of the people that were foreclosed on in the subsequent years after 2008. And guess what? Was it subprime loans like they said it was for 5, 6 years after that crisis? They said it's all poor people, subprime loans, immigrants, blah, blah, blah. That story was going round and round and round. It's like we talk about yesterday's um, yesterday's conspiracy theory or misinformation is today's reality. And basically, they found out no, it was people with good credit scores, it was people that were over leveraged, it was people that were flipping homes, it was normal people with good credit who were victim and, well, not victim to themselves, but essentially lost their homes and got foreclosed on. The narrative was wrong that was formed. And even The Big Short, a movie that was put out, one of my favorite movies, by the way, but even that movie doesn't portray it exactly right, because it's all focused. I mean, I get it, it's focused more on the financial wizardry that was going on, which is going on right now, by the way. But nevertheless, I don't know. It's whatever you think, I suppose. Frozen credit, banks got slaughtered. Yeah, Greg, I totally agree. The news is loving the war, taking the narrative away from inflation and affordability. Exactly. And we're going to get another record inflation reading in a week or so, and I'll be covering it on a live stream when we get that data from both the US and Canada, and that will be like another record print. We know it's going to be a record print, but whilst they peddle this narrative, it just falls into the background, because for a lot of people it's just like, well, that's the least of our worries. That's what they want you to think, like that's the least of our worries. But is this war really on our doorstep? And really, are we like, is it hypocrisy from the West when you consider what happened in Iraq? And there's a good movie that you can watch, and I think it was based off a true story, The American Sniper. So that's a good movie to watch about the Iraq War, especially now, to kind of think through what was going on in the Iraq War. Now, obviously, that's a movie, so that it's not true. Well, I mean, some of it is true, obviously, but take it with a pinch of salt. But I think there's a book or a diary or something that inspired that film. So anyway, but yeah, Greg, you're exactly right, and we got the audio working good on this. I remember to put my mic in. So yeah, opening bank accounts, purchase vehicles and property, picking up prescription medication. I mean, isn't that insane? Imagine if they said, "Hey, you need to get this medicine, and that unless you get it, you're not going to get your other medicine." I mean, just imagine if they said something like that. But they could say anything, and the media is going to spin it in whatever way. So yeah, we got applying. Sorry, that looks worse. Applying for government loans and grants, filing taxes, and I guess falling under that category is also going to be government benefits, which will eventually be UBI at some point. Which will just lead to more inflation, and we can get to that in another video. That's another video entirely. I think UBI is a load of garbage, and we should go through that in a different video. Filing taxes, conducting employee background checks, verifying customer identities without a need of physical presence. With the digital ID, having this much sensitive information localized on one ID app, it's no wonder that some are being cautious. What would happen if a tech savvy criminal got hold of your device? Now, obviously, this article, guys, is on NordVPN. So we're going to be real here and say that in a certain degree, they're going to try and sway the narrative in a way that, hey, worried about hackers, because get our VPN. And by the way, this video is not sponsored by NordVPN. I know that loads of YouTubers out there push NordVPN affiliates, but I don't use NordVPN. I actually use ExpressVPN. But anyway, that's just me. And it is a good idea to have a VPN, by the way, certainly. Definitely if you're ever on public Wi-Fi. Ultimately, it's up to you if you trust the government's word. Oh, you just cannot believe when you're reading this, can you? You just can't believe it. I can't believe it. Like, it's up to you if you trust the government's word. Does anybody trust the government's word these days? I don't know. I struggle to find anybody who trusts the government's word. While many of the world's leading bodies haven't done much to earn the trust of their people, it's hard not to see the convenience of having digital ID. Again, I don't know why they keep pushing the convenience. I mean, how many times do you really get asked for ID? Like, for me, it's maybe once or twice a year. And even when you fill in an application online, normally you can just input your driver's license number or whatever your SIN number, and then it's going to identify you anyway. It identifies you for a bank account through the credit score system. Surprise, surprise. So if you're blacklisted from having a bank account, and that's a funny thing, actually. I wonder if you guys know, maybe you guys know, let me know in the comments, but did any of those people that had their bank accounts frozen, were their credit scores affected? That would be an incredible thing to know, because I would think it was. I would think in some way or another it was, because they missed a payment for whatever, it must have. So it's it's kind of crazy. But while Ontario's government claims that none of the data will be used without permission, again, claims, love it. It's a song that many of us have heard before. Yeah, we certainly have. You know, we're not going to use your data, but you need it for this and you need it for that, and they'll gradually walk you into it, or maybe just go full blown at you like they did with the passport system. For those wary of the program, perhaps it would be wise to wait a year or two, see how the digital ID fares in the wild before adopting it yourself. That's if, of course, you have the choice. They make it sound like we're going to have the choice. With things that the government brings in, be it the potion master's cure, be it passport systems, whatever it is, they find a way to restrict your fundamental freedom, so it becomes almost like they're blackmailing you into doing it. And this is the laughable thing, that we now have all these governments, Boris Johnson, Joe Biden, Justin Trudeau, grandstanding and saying, look at what's happening in Ukraine, using that, exploiting that situation for their own gain. And a lot of people, incredibly misled, led by their emotions, look at the photos, which are devastating. And I do not condone war. I just want to throw that out there. I think every war is wrong, including the Iraq war. Then you have to really look at yourself in the mirror as a country. But yeah, I mean, this is just cloud insanity, literally. So what else have we got on here? Yeah, so I mean, I'm not going to adopt it, and that is for sure. And it's starting off in Ontario, but we know that this is going to go somewhere else. And if it didn't get any worse, this is going to get even worse, because it's actually on the government's website. This is not a conspiracy theory. So this is literally on Ontario government's website. So learn about Ontario's digital identity program, which introduces a new, convenient way to prove who you are that will make accessing online and in person services simpler, safer, and more secure. Again, there's always a trade off to what they do, but they never make that clear, do they? It's always the pros. Just look at what it's going to do for you. And I don't know about you guys, but it seems so dumb, because, like, again, like, what convenience? Like, how can they seriously push convenience about this? Because how many times do you seriously need your ID? I mean, get it. I get it if you're buying alcohol all the time and you're my age, you're going to get ID'd. But the thing is, like, even so, just getting a card out of your, I mean, let's face it, guys, how many people do you see using pay with their phone? You rarely see that. You rarely see it. Everybody's using their card still, because their card is more convenient than getting their phone out. Now, don't get me wrong, I've used pay on my phone when I forgot my wallet, and that's kind of handy. But I'm thinking twice about that now, because there's obviously a trade-off to using that, which is, again, centralization of everything going to on your phone. So it is it is nuts what digital ID is and is not. Oh, misinformation, disinformation. We gotta rule it out. Digital ID is an electronic version of trusted government that provides better say. What? Are you reading this? Am I reading this wrong? Because that doesn't make sense to me. Digital ID is an electronic version of trusted government that provides better safety. Oh, right, I see. Yeah, okay, I get it. The I don't know why they put that space there. Like, it's just why not put a full stop or a comma or something that provides better safety, more security, stronger privacy than physical identification cards or documents. I mean, yeah, right, because these days everybody I mean the difference between stealing your phone and stealing your wallet are negligible, to say the least. And I say that people probably leave their phone in places, or their phone falls out of their pocket more than their wallet, or they crack their phone or smash their phone or something like that. Whereas I don't know about my ID card, but I can't just drop that on the ground and it shatters. It's just insane. It can be securely stored in a digital wallet app for smartphones and other digital devices like tablets and computers, and will let people and businesses prove who they are both online and in person. Do you see? I see how they're going to push this, because they've just withdrew the passport system. They'll leave it a while. They'll let you have the summer maybe. And then come winter, there'll be some need that they need to implement this, and this will be like the new thing. Oh, the cases are up. Oh, well, it's all linked in your digital ID now. It's not like a passport, it's like a digital ID. So you can't protest against the digital ID, because you're protesting against democracy, because that holds all the things, and it's for your security, your convenience, your well-being. You can see how they'll spin this. Digital ID is the foundation that will enable easier access to online services and make Ontario the world's most digitally advanced jurisdictions. That just sounds terrible to me. I don't want Ontario to be one of the world's uh, um, most digitally advanced jurisdictions. Thank you very much. I don't want them. So, yeah, with a value for Ontario's businesses and governments that is estimated at 20 billion. What? That means it's going to cost the taxpayer 20 billion. Is that what they're saying? That is just insanity if that's how much it's going to cost. Uh, that's businesses and the government that is estimated at 20 billion. I don't know if what they're talking about there. They're not very clear on whether that's a cost or whether that's actually um, it doesn't generate any value. So I don't see how it could be generating any money. Um, guess I'm Yeah, you know what? The thing is, there is a little bit more freedom here, but unfortunately, this what starts in Ontario is going to continue everywhere. This is not the Ontario government pulling the strings at the back. This is the global elite and the World Economic Forum. This is not the Ontario government. So just like the passport system, this once it gets implemented in one jurisdiction, it'll be another and another and another and another, because we live in this woke world now where everybody has to be equal, apart from, anyway, I'm not going to go down that slippery slope. Maybe save that for when we can stream on Rumble. Which is this will be on Rumble, by the way, in case it gets deleted. Because who knows what the digital overlords are thinking. This is the world we live in right now. Convenient, it lives on your mobile device and is always ready to use whenever you need it. So, I mean, if they move to this system, obviously some people don't have cell phones. Kudos to them. There's also the fact that, but then again, they did it with the passport. So I just don't, the foundation is already laid. Like, can't you see the people having conversations and justifying this between themselves right now? Well, Luke, what are you on about? We had the passport system. How is this different from the passport system? Do you see that is going to be coming? Because I certainly see that it's going to be coming. Luke, let's rumble. Yeah. Um, but that's the case of the matter, and these issues are just absolutely, they're driving me up the wall because they're getting me really fired up and just angry at the government. Like when I saw last night, I really got to do a media detox, and I've done one a couple of times because it just helps if you just completely turn off all your news. But it feels like the world that we live in right now, it is important to know these things that are going on, because if you're asleep at the wheel, it's not a good sign. But anyway, um, to the person who said about moving to Saskatchewan, Alberta, I would get out of Canada, because it's the whole of Canada that is the problem here. And we just saw that with the passport system, which was heavily endorsed by the WEF, which is all for digital ID. They love this stuff. And this isn't tinfoil hat or conspiracy theory. You can go on their website and look up all this stuff. They love digital ID. This is their favorite stuff. This is what Klaus just um yeah, anyway. I wanted to say something derogatory, but I won't. Or profanity or whatever. Anyway, secure, your data is protected using strong encryption. And unlike your physical wallet, your digital ID can easily be turned off if your phone is lost or stolen. Again, but what about if I break my phone? What about if my phone, I accidentally drop it? Well, if I drop my wallet, it doesn't break. And again, my wallet doesn't have to be charged, all the rest of it. So they're just using the pros. Why are they using the pros? And I'm sure there's going to be a list somewhere on here. And I haven't read this, so if there is, I'll be really shocked. But I'm sure there's going to be a list of what this isn't, in the case of what the reasons why it isn't this. Just like, it's not going to be social credit scores and everything else, and we're not going to be restricting your freedom. Put your tinfoil hat away and everything like that. Privacy preserving. For example, if you need to show you are age of majority, the verifier will only know you are over 18, not your date of birth or actual age. And again, that they're putting this in a way that looks really fantastic and great, and just makes a lot of people think, oh, this is really convenient. Maybe this is a good thing. Verifiable. Just like a driver's license, a digital ID is certified government proof that you are who you say you are. Yeah, just like a driver's license. So why do I need this? If it's just like a driver's license, why do we need this? And they're saying it's convenience, but as I just said, phone runs out of battery, you drop your phone and it breaks. Like, they're just telling you what they're just telling you what's in their interest, essentially, to make it look good. It's like a advertisement. It's like a commercial, instead of the government giving us the pros and the cons. I guarantee there's going to be a list, isn't there, saying what it isn't. Um, you have full and complete control over what bits of your information you want to share with whom you want to share it. No one can access your data without your agreement, apart from the government, of course. Signing up for a digital ID will be optional. You can still use your physical ID whenever you want. But this is a foundation. This is a foundation of a social credit scoring system. The digital ID is the foundation. We talked about this again. If you didn't see the live stream from the other day, then go watch that at the end of this video, because this is literally the foundation. And I cannot believe, less than a week since we did that video, somebody sent me this, and it's already in the works. This is the government's website, guys. It's just insanity. Oh, wait, here we go. Here we go, guys. I knew they would do this. I knew this was coming. So here it is, what it's not, just in case you're worried, because we know that the government never goes back on their word. They never lie to us. They're always so good. They don't manipulate information when it suits them. not stored in a central database. Your digital ID is stored only on your personal mobile device, for example, your phone or tablet or computer, and can be turned off remotely if your device is or computer is lost or stolen. Not a tracking device yet. So, but doesn't this kind of show in a way that they know what people are going to be thinking and why they're going to oppose this? They obviously have to come up with this argument, and that's why I said earlier in this video, I haven't seen this, but I knew this was coming because they had to put this in there, because then it's like, guys, just to make feel all comfortable and warm and fuzzy inside, we're just going to reiterate that we're not going to be able to do that. Just like Jason Kenney came out in July and said, we are never, ever going to do a passport system because it is constitutionally wrong. And then in September, he's there with a passport system, but he's not calling it a passport system. He's calling it REP, which I mean, oh, how thick does he think people really are? Not a tracking device. The government will not know where you have been or where you use your digital ID. Well, I'm sure you saw about the military and how they were tracking thousands of phones over the past 2 years. I'm sure you saw about that. So do you really trust them saying that? Because I mean, they track us without our permission. So it is happening, and that's not misinformation. It's all out there. You can Google it. The military did this. So how can anybody trust the government at this point? Not usable without your permission. You must always consent, agree before sharing any information. Well, that's fine. But what happens when that information, you know, um, doesn't work? Like, it's not accepted for whatever reason because it's just a code that they're scanning. So why now we need better privacy and security? Physical forms of identification and credentials were not designed for the safety and security needs of a digital world. Current solutions like scanning your driver's license and sending it by email are inconvenient. Again, they're using this inconvenient narrative, but I just think that is so just silly. Like, to walk that path, and insecure. Okay, yeah, really. When physically I have it in my hand, in my possession, I know where it is. Whereas if it's on my phone, there's more chance somebody could hack my phone or a virus gets onto my phone. Cyber criminals are incredibly smart and are getting smarter and smarter. So putting all your data in one app, even if that's locally stored on your device, I don't think that's a great idea. So that's just me, though. We value online and contactless transactions. Here we go. Convenience, convenience, convenience. I nearly said it. Pervasive sickness has made it clear that online transactions can be convenient, user friendly. Ontario's digital ID will mean more businesses that require customer identification will be able to move their services online. The pandemic has also taught us that contactless in person service options, such as tap to pay instead of entering a PIN on a terminal, can help keep us safe. Ontario's digital ID will let you prove who you are in person without exchanging any physical documents. It's yeah, so kind of crazy, and it's just crazy. So somebody put here, fleeing is disgraceful. Not really, because when you really think about it, it's just boycotting. It's leaving in protest. Yeah, you want this country to be a better place, but if you can't physically do that and enough people aren't going to wake up and you're left in the minority, the only thing you have left to do is vote with your feet or just suffer. I mean, those are your two options: suffer your whole life or vote with your feet. So I don't think fleeing is disgraceful at all. I totally disagree with that. So that is just not right to even go down that road, and to say, oh, you're a traitor because you're leaving as well. That is just totally wrong, because the thing is, you're not a traitor. The fact is that if you can't change something, and like we've literally seen with the convoy, what happens when people go for freedoms. You don't think that's going to get worse? If you can't change something and you're in the minority, even though you're in the right in that minority, your real options are to just suffer or leave, go somewhere else that values freedom more than the place that you're in. And that is really what it comes down to. And I respect people who say that they're going to stay, and that it's, if you think that people are traitors who leave, that is fine with me. You know, I'm not going to judge you based on that, but I'm just going to say personally, I don't agree with that, because everybody has the choice and it's a protest. You're boycotting the country when you leave, because the country isn't getting your tax dollars. You're leaving in protest. And think about it. Canada is a country that relies on migration. And if enough of us left in protest, they would have to listen. Okay. So that is a good way of actually protesting, and it's an option that should always be there, and quite frankly has been took away from some people right now. Some people cannot leave the country. Just think about that. So that fundamental right has been took away for some people right now. So it's just kind of insane. But let's carry on. We value contactless transactions. Come on. Where you could use the digital ID to help you understand where it could work, here are some examples of future digital ID uses. Oh, great. So here we go. Make an age-sensitive purchase like a lottery ticket. Pick up a package at the post office. Apply for government assistance, such as disability support or benefits such as CERB or EI. You see, they're already floating this, that it's going to be used for that. So it's easy to restrict your benefits, which they've already done, I believe, to some people. Access to these records. Open a bank account so they can debank you if you get blacklisted. If you have views that the government doesn't agree with, they will make your life a living hell, as we are seeing right now with the Freedom Convoy and everything that's happening right now. So it's as a business, you could use digital ID when you hire new employees, prove business identity credentials, or verify those. Open business accounts, apply for loans, grants, and tax credits, and then verify customers' identities. So there we go. And then it tells you how it works. And how digital ID works. Download, sign up, add all your identification cards, and then you're good to go. And that's the exact PNG file that I used in the video, this one right here. So that's where I got it from. So it is just insanity, really. But yeah, it's kind of insane. Here's what we've been up to since we announced digital ID. Here we go. This is what we published, the set of technical tools. Again, guys, this happened. This is happening again, where they're calling them tools. They're calling them tools. Like, these are powers. They are not tools. But they keep on, like, this use of the word tools is ridiculous, and it's getting so see-through now that it's just insane. But we held feedback sessions with members of the public. I wonder how biased they were. To learn their interpretation of digital ID, we began presenting our technology roadmap to the private sector partners, patients at Niagara Health were among the first in the province who can access their diagnostic. So look, it's a great thing because we're doing this. We've introduced first digital on our data strategy, building a digital Ontario. This sounds horrific. 4 Ontario hospitals introduced the Ontario Trusted Account, a service that allows their patients to prove identities online. Again, you can prove this sort of stuff online anyway. I'm not sure what this is all on. We surveyed and consulted with the public and both small and medium-sized businesses about using digital ID. We held roundtable consultations with large market participants to understand their perspective of blah, blah, blah. Okay, so when was that updated? Just curious. Published November 18th, updated February 26th, not that long ago. Okay, so they've been updating this. So anyway, guys, that is the future here in Canada. The future is digital ID, social credit score, lack of freedom, unless, of course, we unite and manage to get enough people on side with us who really understand the nuance of what's really going on behind the scenes instead of believing all these blanket statements that are put out, which is just the way it is. I mean, the narratives that, I mean, the polls that I did speak for themselves. And actually, let's go through some of them because the polls I did were quite interesting, and we had a number of people respond. There was loads of people that responded to the polls. So let me see if I can get to it. So, okay, so let's have a look because some of these were absolutely insane. Okay, so how do I switch this? Here we go. All right, so I'm going to bring this up on here now. Okay, so you probably can't see that, so I'm going to zoom in. All right, so you can probably see that. So basically, these are some of the polls that I've done just to kind of see what people are thinking in the community. And I think it's incredibly important because YouTube is a great tool. And I don't know how, but these polls have more votes than I even have subscribers. But anyway, that means we're getting more of an audience for these polls, which makes them more effective, in my opinion. Does censorship of Russian media make you more suspicious or less suspicious of the mainstream narrative? 2,600 people have voted on this. This is a significant poll. And 97% voted more suspicious. 97%. If that doesn't, I mean, that could not be clearer. It couldn't be clearer. 97%, 2,600 is pretty insane. And I know a lot of people on this channel, they're awake and very smart and intelligent. And I commend you all for that. I know you guys are incredibly smart, quite a lot, very smarter than I am. And do you think NATO countries are further stoking the war in Ukraine and making the situation worse? Again, 80%, 2,600 votes. 80% of people said yes. These are strong. It's not like we're getting 50-50 or 60-40 or even 70-30. We're getting like above 80% on one side, which just goes to show. Do you think we should be sending troops to Ukraine? This one really had a high amount of votes, as you can see there, 3.1 thousand votes. So a lot of people, again, the emotions are running high about this, and everybody essentially said no. 85% basically, only 15% said yes. But the mainstream narrative suggests that that's the next step and everybody's going to be on board with it. I don't think so. So it is just a insane thing, absolutely insane. So let's see here. What else we got? Are you concerned about high inflation? 96%, 3.3 thousand votes said yes. 96%. Again, that is a huge, huge number of people that have voted on that poll, and nearly everybody is highly concerned about inflation, arguably more than anything else. So it's really just absolutely insane. It's just I, I just find it insane that these oh, do you think politicians are corrupt? This is the most definitive one of them all, and the most. Sorry, I didn't share my screen. Do you think politicians are corrupt? This one right here. 3.7 thousand people voted. That is like double the size of the channel nearly. I have no idea how that happened. Um, but 98% voted yes. This is the people voting. And like less than 1% put not sure, and 1% put no. Like that is insane. 3,700 people. Just picture that. That's a lot. That's a lot. 98% is a massive, massive number. So I think that just shows you. Here's another. Do you believe anything you see on the mainstream media anymore? No, 89%. I never have, 10%. Only yes. Only 1% put yes. 1% put yes. So this just shows you how insane it is. It's just absolutely insane. So it's yeah, it is absolutely nuts. So I just can't believe that. Just cannot believe that. Arthur put, please don't delete the messages. I will mute people when they're insulting people. And that is exactly what he did. So he has been muted and his message has been deleted. And yeah, if you're going to debate and not put insults at people, then that's absolutely fine. I can agree to disagree with you on many, many things. But when you start attacking people and calling them names, not only does that show a low level of intellect, it also just shows that you, yeah, anyways, don't want to get too far into that. So, anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this live stream. It's been incredibly fun actually to go through this, even though it's kind of not fun because it's kind of scary in a reality sort of sense of way that all of this stuff is coming down the pipe. Yeah, keep it respectful. That's exactly what it is. We've all got to have respect for one another. And I know that a lot of people don't agree with me, and that's absolutely fine. You can disagree with me. You can write comments and I won't delete them. I don't delete the comments unless you start insulting me. And then I will delete it and I won't respond either. So really the loser, the real loser are the people that do that, because if you want to engage me or somebody else in sensible debate, that's absolutely fine. We will engage in that, but just insulting people is not on. It's just not on. I don't condone it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next stream. Thank you, Gloria, Trader 586, FP, Greg, Gloria, Arthur, everybody else who's been on this stream, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Peace and love, guys. Bye-bye.